In this video, I'm going to introduce you to EduEditor for TestCentre. This is the first video of a series that I'll be doing that will be all about the EduEditor. So the first thing you need to understand is what is EduEditor. EduEditor is a specialized application designed to enable you create educational content for computer-based tests. And in this case, you can create the educational material by manually typing out or providing your content. Or you can also use a new feature we introduced, which is all about creating educational content with AI. So I'm going to explore all you need to know about the EduEditor, and I'll demonstrate how to go about using it to create educational content for computer-based tests. Note that EduEditor is designed to be compatible with all our educational testing applications. So if you are a user of the TestCentre application, then EduEditor is designed to enable you set your questions, create your lecture notes, and do many more. So let's get started. First, I'm going to launch the EduEditor. Note that after installing the editor, you can launch it from the icon on the desktop, or you just search for EduEditor, then you launch. Once you launch the EduEditor, you'll be presented with two options. One is to open an existing project that you have been working on, or to start one afresh. So I'm going to start with the second option, which is starting a project afresh. And let's take a look. So once you click start a project afresh, so the next thing is you'll be asked to save your project in any given folder. So in this case, I'm going to name this project sample 1. So this is just a sample and this is the first one. So once you click on that, then you are good to go. You can start right away. You can commence with the typing and any other thing you want to do. So the first thing I would like to talk about is once you've started a project, where does your project get saved? So let me show you the folder where we saved this project. Once you open up the folder, you will see that the name you provided at the point of creating the project is going to be used as the folder name, which is sample 1. If you open sample 1, then you have all the files that that relates to the project. So what this extension means is it's an extension that indicates the EduEditor file. Then every resources you create while setting your content, they will all be saved inside this raw folder. So basically, your project consists of a raw folder and this file. So these are the two things that keep track of everything you'll be doing within EduEditor. So now let's get back to the EduEditor interface. So let's just walk through a scenario. So let's say I want to set questions for my students. So let's say my student happens to be in SS1 and SS2, and I want to set, let's say, math questions, math test. I want to set math tests for them, and I want to create the content. So how do I go about it? So the first thing is to set is to add a subject. So in this case, this is mathematics. Then the next thing is to click on that subject, then right click and add a season. So what exactly is a season? A season is more or less like a subset of that subject. So you can say that you want to set question for SS1. So SS1 is a season. A season could also mean the year. So I could say, okay, I want to set math question for a particular year, for 2001 set or 2002 set. And the season could also be level. So let's say this is for a content designed for students in university. A season could mean year 1, year 2, or level 1, level 2. So you can think of a season as a subset. So you are saying math for which class, or for which year, or for which batch. So that is what a season represents. So in this case, my own season is SS1 student. So that is my own season. Then a season could also reflect topic. So you can say math, let's say indices or sequence, but it all depends on your use case. So now let's click on this season, SS1. Once you click on SS1, then you are ready to provide the content. So that's how straightforward it is. You create a subject, you create your season, and right away you provide your content under a given season. Now the question could be solve for X, equals, let's say, 5x minus 10. So this could be the question. Then your option could be as follows. So let's say, let me change this to 3. Then in this case, you may have something like maybe option A is 1, option B is 5, then option C is, let's say, 8, and the last option is 10. Now, once you provide the options, the next thing is to provide the correct answer. So in this case, the correct answer is option B, which seems to be 5. So that's how you go about setting your question. Now, I'm done with question number 1. Then question number 2, you click next. So it creates question number 2, right? Now, what do? You provide the next question. So the next question could be find the area of a square whose side is 4 centimeters. So that's it. Then the next thing is option. So the first option could be, let's say, 16. Second option could be, let's say, 8. Third option could be 32. Then this could be 100. In this case, the correct option is option B. And that's question number 2. Then you can do that for all other questions. So it's quite straightforward. You type question, you type your options, and you move on to the next question. Okay, so is that all you need to do here? No, that's not all. So this is just an introduction to what you can do. Now, let's talk about other aspects. Let's talk about the entire interface. Then I'll talk about other things. So the interface is structured as follows. So we have the menu bar. The menu bar houses all the menus and settings and the like. So we'll talk about those later. Then we have the more or less like the taskbar. So this shows you your current where you're currently at. So in this case, I'm currently at Maths SS1 season and question 2. Then you can click this button to save at any time to save whatever you have done so far. Okay, then this other section tells you the various type of content you can create. So with this tool, you can create objective content. You can create theory content. Content means theory questions, right? Then lecture, you can create lecture notes. So the lecture notes is something I'll talk about much later, not in this video, in a separate video. But this is a very interesting feature. It allows you to create study material, lecture materials with exercises. In fact, the lecture note here is exactly what we used for our computer-based testing application that allows students to learn to learn. If you are aware of our classroom feature in our end user products, then this lecture is exactly what we use in creating all the lecture notes, in structuring them, and the like. So I'll talk about that later. Now let's go back to the objective. So what about this section, this section below the tab, the objective tab? So it's divided into 3 parts. So we have the part that houses all the subjects. So this left part is this right left part is where you create your subject, your season, and the likes. Then the middle, which is this region, is where you do the typing or the actual content creation, right? And this is where you find the question box, the option box, and explanation box, and so on. Then on the right side, this is more or less like the completion panel. So this gives you an idea of how many questions you have in total, how many you've completed, and every other information that relates to what you are doing. It gives you a very interesting idea of what's happening. I'll talk about them as we proceed. Okay, so on the left side, it's clear. This is how you create your subject. On the right, on the middle, you type, and on the left, completion panel. So now the next thing I want to talk about is the other kind of content you can provide. So apart from question and option, what if you have more options? So in this case, what if in your own case you have 4 options, 5 options, 6 options? You can easily add a new option. Once you click add under this option, you have more options, so option D. And of course, you can delete an option if you don't want that option. So you can delete by clicking on this drop down beside the option, and you delete. Okay, then what else can we do on that option? You can move options around. So let's say for some reasons you wish that option A is swapped with option let's say C. That is, you want option A to be option C. Now, instead of you retyping all of these, like deleting and retyping, you can just move this down, or you move option C up. So I can say, okay, let option C move right to the very top. If you click up is just a one step upward, but if you click top, it goes right to the very top, right? So, and if you notice, even after after the movement, it still kept the correct option here, because we moved the option A down, and in this case it still checks that, okay, option B is not the correct thing. So I can move it down as well to make sure that it is at option C. So that is one of the things you can do here. Then what about this multi-answer? This multi-answer is designed for situations where the nature of the CBT is such that users are expected to pick more than one option. So if this question requires students to pick more than one correct options. So let's say you have a question where you ask them pick two correct options, right? Then you need to enable this multi-answer to make that happen. So it allows you to select multiple options. But for now, we don't have that feature in our CBT system. So for now, the feature is not really useful at the moment. So let's go back to this. If you disable the multi-answer, every time you switch, you click a new option, it disables the previous. Okay, so what about the explanation? What's the use of this explanation box? The explanation box is where you provide detailed solutions to the answer. So this is where you provide your solutions. This is where you solve to show or prove why the answer is option C, and so on. So, but for most cases, you may not need to provide any explanation if you don't want your student to see corrections. So if this is a test or an exam, you may not want them to see any correction. But if this is an assignment and you want them to know why option A or B or C is the answer, then it will be great you provide an explanation as to why the correct option is C. So this may include you actually solving the question and showing step by step as far as to how you have arrived at 16. Okay, so that's explanation. Then what about the next thing here, which happens to be obtainable mark? Obtainable mark means what should be awarded to the student if he or she gets it right, right? So that's what this means. So the default is 1 mark per question. But if you have a different grading system where you want some questions to have more weight than other questions, then you can do that. You can set the mark for each question, and that is what will reflect when the student takes the exam. The weight will be based on the mark assigned to each question. Okay, what about the difficulty level? You can set difficulty level, and we have three of them. You can say one, two, three. So one means easy, level two means medium, and level three means difficult. So what this means is you can assign that, oh, this question is a difficult question, or a simple question, or averagely difficult question, and that's it. Now you may ask, where does this come into play? So this feature is relevant for users that want to use the test center game. So let's say you want to use the TestCentre feature that allows you to set a kind of game or competition. So you may want to pull questions that are easy or difficult based on the level of the game. So that's where this feature becomes relevant. But for most cases, it's not really relevant, but it's relevant in very few cases. But this is where you can assign a difficulty level. Okay, what about the topic? What about that? So that's quite interesting. So if you want to associate every question to a topic, so that when the student gets to see their correction, they get to know topics where they are performing well and topics where they are not performing well. This feature is great. So what do you do to add topics? So the first thing, if you don't have any topic, the first thing you do is to add topics. So in this case, I may have a list of topics from maybe Excel or from a text or Word document. Just paste everything here. The way it's designed is each line represents a topic. So I could have something like indices, then next line sequence and series, right? So this is the topic. Then you may have another one trigonometry, then you may have another one geometry, then another one measuration, then you may have another one, let's call this logarithm, right? And sorts and so on. So just provide all the topics that your content will fall into. And once you are done with that, you just click save. Now, by adding, what you've just done is you've added the topics from which you will pick from. Now, the next thing you need to do is now assign. So assign simply means, okay, click this select, then tell me exactly, um, tell me the topic that this belongs to, this particular question belongs to. So if this question belongs to measuration, you click measuration, right? And you click on OK, and that's it. Now you can see that it's now telling me that this question is under measuration, right? Then if you have a different question, let's say this particular one, which happens to be under, let's say, linear equation, right? In this case, there's no linear equation. So all you need to do is simply add it. So you can just say uh, linear equation, linear equation, and once you add, then you can pick from that list. So now we have linear equation, and you click on OK. So that's how you assign any topic to each question. Now, the next thing is, what else can we do with topics? Sometimes we want to edit topics. So let's say for some reason you made a mistake with your spelling and you've assigned that topic to, let's say, a lot of questions. You can just click on edit topic and pick the current topic. So let's say this one is linear equation, and this time around I want it to be something like algebra. Let's say this is the best, this is the way I want to describe it. And I want to say algebra colon linear equation. If you do that, it's going to update every question that's assigned to linear equation, and edit them to algebra colon linear equation. So that's a great way to make an edit to all the topics without having to manually change every topic assigned to every question. Okay, then what else can we do with topic? We can remove unassigned topics. So let's say after creating your content, there are some topics that we did not assign to any question. You can just delete them. So we have not assigned any question to all of these topics, and you can clear them all. Then you can also copy all the topics to clipboard. So let's say you want to copy all the topics to clipboard and paste it somewhere else. If you check, let me paste it here. You see that these are all the topics arranged in ascending order. Okay, the reason why you always have an empty topic here is because you may want to remove the topic that you've assigned earlier. You may want to unassign the topic. So by having this empty stuff, what you're basically doing is you are saying, okay, I don't want to assign it to any topic. Now, that's for the topic assignment. Okay, so the next thing is let's talk about the completion panel. So for the completion panel, what can you do? What information does it give you? It helps you know real time whether you've completed any question. So let's create question number 3. So question number 3, if you notice, it's showing a kind of yellowish color or orange or yellowish color. So what that implies is you have not completed. The green means you've completed the question based on your checklist. So once it's showing this orange color, it means there's an issue. We have not done something. So, of course, we have not provided question, we have not provided option. So let's do that. Now, I'm going to provide a question. So let's say the question I intend to provide is 2x minus y equals 8 and x plus y equals 7. Find the values of x and y. So let's say in this case I have something like 3 and 1. Let's say this is x is 5 and 2, and then x is 9 and 7, and let's say x is 5, 6 and 3. Okay, in this case, the right option is option B, and that's, you can now see that the color that used to be orange or yellow has changed to green. So what that indicates that I've completed the core aspect of my content. I've filled the core aspect. Then if I uncheck it, which means I refuse to select any option, any correct option, then it's telling me there's something. You understand? I've not done something. So it's a great way for you to know which question is still having issue or is uncompleted, right? Now, if I click the right option, then I'm good. But then you may want to also check if you've provided topics. So let's say in your own case, the condition is that every question must have an explanation, or every question must have a particular must have topics. You can define your checklist. So the default checklist is that you must fill the question and the options for the software to know that you are done. But if you have extra conditions, how do you go about it? So you can set the new condition by clicking on this drop down beside the completed text. And once you do that, you will see completion checklist. So this means you can define things like you should check for empty topics. That is, no question should have empty topic. Then you can also say that you want the explanation to have a given number of character. So by default, the if when you say zero, it means you can have a blank explanation. But if I want to have at least a character in explanation, I can just say one, right? But if I want to make sure that the explanation is rich, I may set a condition that you must provide at least 10 or 20 or 100 characters to be marked as completed, right? So let's save this. Now by updating our checklist, you can see that all the questions they are all showing yellow, right? Which implies none of them have been completed because our new uh, checklist is saying we must fill something in the explanation. So in this case, maybe I decided to provide something like, since we have x equals 3x minus 10, so I can say something like 2, 3x minus x equals 10, right? Then maybe 2x equals 10, and let's say x equals 5. Now that I've provided something, I've got more than 10 characters. Now it's showing this color. Mind you, there are two conditions. So I have this provided and I also have my topics defined. But let's take a look at this. Even if you provide something under the explanation, if you don't provide the topic, it will still complain. So now, this simply means you can change your checklist. So let me go back to the original checklist, which is 0, and then I don't need to check for empty topic. So once I do that, I'm good. Okay, so that's how you can tell if you've completed a task or not. Okay, the other thing is, how do you also know the exact problem? So let's say I have my checklist turned on. That is, I added more more things to check, and then it's showing this color. How do I tell what exactly the issue is? If you click on this inspect, it's going to give you more detail. So by clicking on this inspect, it's telling me that for this particular question, explanation is not set. So that's the problem with this question. Then if you switch to this other question, there are two issues. You can see that it's indicating that there are two issues. This red bar is giving me is telling me the two there is telling me that there are two issues here. And here are the issues: no explanation and no topic assigned, right? So this is a great way to know exactly what's wrong in case you are confused as to why it's still showing yellow or some sort of orange color. Okay, that's all about the completion for now. Now let's talk about other things here. The next thing I want to talk about is how to insert passages or instructions. But first, before I do that, let me change the settings back to the default, right? So that's it. Now, in this particular example, I'm going to illustrate as follows. So let's say you have a question that references an instruction. So you may have a question that says, use the information below to answer the question that follows. You understand? So let me give you an example. Let me create question number 4. So let's say I have an instruction that says, use the information below to answer the question that follows. Now, in this case, the instruction might be this. So let's say this is the instruction. Let me pick that of, so let me pick this particular one. So let me change the question slightly. Let me say this is 3, and let's say this amounts to 15. That's 14, and this becomes, given that a father is twice as old as his son. 5 years ago, or let's say 10 years ago, father was 3 times as old as his son. So this is the instruction. So the first question now is how old? How old is the father now? So that's the first question. Now let's provide the second question. So the second question might be, let's move to the next question, might be how old is the son now? And in this case, we need to provide that instruction command, which shows that we should insert whatever instruction we have earlier. So now let's go through the preview. So this particular question references an instruction. Number 6 references an instruction. Number 7 does not reference any instruction. Now, number 8 started an instruction. So this is like the starting of an instruction, because this is where you actually, this is where we created the instruction. Then number 9 now references the previous instruction. So you can see how smooth it is, and you can have it in various ways. You can have your question without any instruction. You can have it with instruction. You can mix it well, however you want to. And the reason why you need to insert instruction is it makes the data that you have less weighty. So imagine you have so many passages, and for every passage you have to copy and paste. At the end of the amount of kilobytes that your total content will be taken up will be relatively large compared to when you use instruction. So that's how you create instruction using EduEditor. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is I'm going to talk about all the names here. Not all, the key ones. I'm going to leave out some which we discuss later. So I've talked about preview. Preview allows you to see how your question will be rendered to the user, or how the CBT engine will render your question. So this helps you to know if there are issues, if there are typo, and all of that. So for example, if I type something that is not grammatically correct, you'll see that it's going to underline it to let me know that okay, there's something here, you may want to look at it. But it may not be a problem if that's the name of someone that is not real English word, right? So, but it will help you know that okay, there's something with that. Okay, the next thing is we have dictionary check. So the dictionary check can float side by side with a preview. In fact, all of this, they are called floating windows, so they are just floating. You can type your work while those things are floating. As you're typing your work, they are updating real time as well. Okay, so now let's close this preview and talk about the dictionary. So what exactly is the use of a dictionary? So in case you want a proper preview of your work, so you want a case where you want to ensure that all typographical errors are taken care of, you can use dictionary feature to take care of that. So if I have any word, for instance, maybe that is wrong, now the dictionary has a way of letting me know exactly the question. So it's telling me that okay, in this particular season, this question is not, there's something in here that is not correct. So it's going to help me figure that out. But then let's say this is a name of someone. So let's say this is a name of someone. And let me use a name that won't be an English word. So let's say this is Kumasi, for instance. Now, Kumasi is not a name, it's not an English word, and that's why it's telling me there's an issue here. Now, I can add that word to dictionary so that subsequently, whenever it says Kumasi, it will not see it as something to be flagged. So once you click on add, then it sees Kumasi as part of its word, so it will add that to its dictionary. Okay, so that was it. Then you can switch between you including new words and not including. So this is a very interesting feature. So let's say for some reason you've added several words, you can choose that, okay, I want to see all the issues without taking into recognition all the new words I've added. So that will help you know maybe if you want to reset the entire new words you've added and all of that. Okay, so then the other thing you can do is you can remove all the words you added. So let's say for some reason you just want to clear all the words you've added. You can do that right away. Okay, so that's the dictionary. So the next thing is, let me delete this. It's not part of the question. So the next thing is to, let's check this out. So we have find and replace. Find and replace allows you to look for certain keyword or phrase in your content. So this could be very useful in case you want to know the question where a particular word exists. So let's say I want to know where I use the word for instance. So I can just type the for, then click on find, and it's going to tell me that, okay, it found two altogether. And it will highlight the question where those words can be found so that I can go there right away. And although this time around, it's that it will look for the word for even in between words, right? So that's how it works. But then you have the other option of searching by regular expression. So this is a more advanced way of searching, and this is for people that really understand regular expression. So if you understand regular expression, then you can use it. It's a very sophisticated way of searching. So in regular expression, this command means search for every numbers. You understand? Like there anywhere you can see number, and if you click on find, it will highlight all the numbers. You see, it's highlighted, 2, 10, and so on. Then it you can also add more sophisticated regular expression, but this is for people that really understand what it is. Then you can find and replace. So you can replace a word with another word, and that's quite easy. Just write the word to be replaced, and or the word you want you to replace what you found, and click on replace or click on replace all. Okay, so that's how it works. Then the next feature is I'm going to skip all the AI. So AI is a separate video. I'm going to make a separate video that talks in detail about everything AI, and it's a fascinating one because here I'm going to show you how to create question, how to ask the AI to solve the question, and many more. So let's talk about inspect. So you can also inspect right from here. We have inspect in two ways. You can trigger the inspect from here, right? Then you can also trigger the inspect from here. So that's it. Okay, the next thing is you can also look for question topic finder. So what that means is you may want to say, okay, I want to know, or I want to highlight all the question that has this topic. So let's say you've set your question and maybe 5 questions or 10, they are under measuration, right? You can just select the topic and it's going to tell you all the places where you've got that topic or all the questions referencing that topic. Yeah, that's it. So the next thing I will talk about is this completion panel. Let me just talk about the other features here. You can highlight any of these box. These are numbers, but then each of them can be right click. So if you right click on any of them, you can clone that question. You can preview that question. So if you preview this question, is equivalent to you previewing it here, right? Then you can move it. So I can say, okay, I want question one to be question two and vice versa, right? So I can say, okay, I want to move this left. So by moving it left, it means that question two becomes question one and so on. So this is a very great feature in case for some reason you just want to reorder your question. Then you can insert question in between. So let's say I want to insert question between question number 2 and 3. You can do that right here. Then of course you can delete a question. Next, I'm going to talk about the menu bar. So let me start with the file menu bar. Under the file menu bar, you can create a new project, open an existing project. You can add or merge two or more projects, and you can import from an old project. So this old project refers to our previous EduEditor version, a very old version. So you can import your old version content into this new version. Then you can deploy and so on. So let me just start with the first one, new project. So to create a new project, you simply name it. So let me name this sample 2 and then click on save. Now that we've got our new project, this is a blank canvas, then you can start your project afresh. So let me just create some first random examples. So let me call this English. So in this case, I want to set English question and for which season or which class, in this case, SS1. And that's it. You can start typing right away. Then let me create another one. Let's say maths. Then or let me spell it out, mathematics. Then this time around, I want to create SS2. So let's say for this particular project, I'm working on English SS1 and Math SS2. And then that's it. You click on save. So that's how you create a new project. You can also create a project by launching the EduEditor and creating one afresh. Then another thing you can do is to open. So to open an existing project right from here, you can just click open and you pick the project you want to open and that's it. But here's what I want to do here. I want to talk about the art project. So art project can be a very useful tool in case you have multiple uh, teachers or multiple content providers working on a given project. So let's say, for example, you've got five teachers and each of them are working on their subject. Once they are done completing their tasks or providing questions, you can merge all those separate projects into one project. So you can just pick one of the projects and add the rest, that is, add the remaining four. So in this case, I'm going to add sample 1 project to sample 2 project. So I'm going to look for sample 1 and pick this edu editor file. Then once you've done that, what you have is that we've got them added to the existing one. So how do I know? If you notice, the the sample 1 project has SS1. Then in this sample 2, I have SS2 maths and SS1 English. So you can see that many people can work on so many projects and you merge everything into one project, and that enables you to divide the tasks. Okay, so that's how you merge projects. Then what else can you do? You can deploy. So deploy is necessary, or is what you do once you are done with a project. So once you deploy a project, it creates a folder or a file that gets eventually exported into TestCentre or wherever platform that you need the content on. But before I click on deploy, and let me talk about other settings that should be done before you deploy. Now, before you can deploy, you need to you need to provide the project setting. So what that means is you need to define the content name, right? So the content name in this case it could be anything. So let's say this is for an exam. You can say the second term exam. You understand? Second term exam. So maybe that's what this content is all about. Then version, let's say 2024. Then the ID, you could just give it some ID that you feel is relevant or will help you remember. Then the company name could be the school name or whatever name of the organization that is conducting this exam. Then the author ID, you can just provide maybe a code that represents your school ID. Then revision is relevant if you do make updates to this content from time to time. So let's say you have this bank of questions that you update from time to time. The revision will help you know whether this is the latest copy of your content or not. Then the season name here refers to, let's say, class, right? So your season name could be year, it could mean year, but in this case it means the class. Then the syllabus is you may just put maybe SS syllabus or whatever name you wish. Then the license server. This feature is going to be relevant in subsequent updates of TestCentre. So the license server is there to enable you tie the content to a given server so that other servers won't be able to use your content. But I'll talk about that. This will be talked in detail in another video. Okay, so let's look at other settings. Then this allows you to set the default exam mode, whether it's practice, study, or mock, the default username, and all of that. These settings, they are not really relevant if you are using this for test center, but it's relevant for other use cases. So let's click on save, and that's all. That's all you've got. Then you click on save again to be sure it's saved. Then you can deploy. Once you deploy content, then the output is what you need for your test center or whatever exam you want. So let's go to the folder where the output will be generated. So let's go to sample 2 where we have the project. So here you have sample 2 project. You see that we have this RAS folder. So this is the output of what you will get whenever you click on deploy. You will get this RES folder, and this is what you import to Test Center or to any other application where this editor is relevant for. Then the other thing you need to take note of is the you've got another deploy known as optimized standard deploy. So this is a new way of deploying, but it's not relevant for most cases now. But the difference here is that optimized standard deploy allows you to deploy it in a way that the output a file will be much more optimized. But for now, always stick with the standard deploy. Then you exit once you are done with the other project, or you can close this uh, to end this project. So the next thing I want to talk about is the I'm not going to talk about the accounts menu and the license menu. I'll talk about them during our discussion on the AI uh, feature, right? Then for the templates, I'll talk about them in detail as well when we're talking about imports from Word and Excel. Then this tutorial menu allows you to access any of our tutorials on our YouTube page. So you can check out the introduction to EduEditor, how to add images and all of that. You can check any of these videos. Once you click on any of these tutorials, it will take you right to our YouTube page where you watch that video. Okay, so now let's go back to something that I need to talk about, which is the theory. So far, I'm talking about the objective type, which is the objective question. So what about theory? How do you create theory questions? Very similar to objective. You start by creating your subject, right? Then the next thing is you add your season as usual, which in this case, let's say SS1. Then the next thing now is to set or add your question. Now, the difference between objective and theory is in objective, once you've created your season, you just start typing your question. The first question will be created, and you can start typing right away. But for theory, since your questions format cannot be predetermined, you would want to set the format. So format means your question may be something like number 1A, number 1B, number 1C, right? So you would want to define that. So in this case, I'm going to start with, let's say, 1. Then the next thing is under 1, I'm going to add question, which is A. So what that means is you can add a question under another question, right? So let me rephrase. The first level is subject, second level is season, then every other levels they are all questions. But you can create a kind of tree-like structure where you have 1A or 1AI. Then other one, you can add another question. So in this case, other one, I want to add question B, which is now 1B. Then if I want to add question 2, I'll right click on the season, then just click on add question, then just type 2. Then that's gives me question 2. The other question 2, I can add another question, which is A. Then that becomes question 2A. So you can structure your theory purely based on how you want it to be and how your actual question looks like. That is whatever question pattern you are targeting. So it could be 1A, 1B, it could be part 1, could be part 2, it could be section 1, right? Okay, so then you can type a question as usual, just the way you type a question under objective. Now, the part I need to talk about is this response from candidate. So the default is none. That's the default. But if you select short answer, what you are saying is during the test, the candidate will be asked to provide a final answer. So what that means is you are saying that the question is such that the candidate is meant to provide a final answer. So this is useful when your question is more or less like subjective question. So if you have a question like uh, you want them to define, you want them to guess a number. So I could say, in what year did Nigeria, let's say, gain independence, for instance. So let's say you expect a particular fixed, unique answer. You can set the response type to short answer, and the user will be expected to type the answer. Now, if what you want user to provide is a long text answer, let's say you want them to define something or you want them to explain something, then the user will be asked to type their answer. Although our software grades them, but the grading system is not 100% reliable because what we do is just to grade their response with respect to your explanation. So what that means is if you want users to provide detailed answers to that question, you must provide an explanation, and we're going to compare the user's answers to your explanation. And the way we compare them is to look at the keywords. So look at the how similar their response is compared to your explanation, and we use that to judge or to assign a score to their response. So the comparison is logical and is good to a reasonable extent, but is obviously not reliable for several use cases. So if, for example, you are dealing with math solution, then this is not going to help, and it doesn't also check grammatical error and all of that. So what that means is it's just that in case you won't go ahead with our grading system using uh, uh, text similarity. Okay, so the other thing is the obtainable mark is still the same as objective, level of difficulty two is still the same as objective. Now we also have other response type like table, image, voice notes, video, any file. All of these features are still under development. So our CBT system cannot display or allow users to provide all of this. But once that's done, we are going to use a video talking about how to leverage on those response type. Okay, so we are done with the theory. So there's one more thing which happens to be subjective. There are cases where you want to set objective questions with subjective questions. So what that means is, so let me show you an example of that. So a case where you've got objective, then subjective, objective, and subjective, and let's want to achieve that. You can achieve that within the objective tab. The objective allows you to set both objective and subjective questions. So let me show an example of such. So let's take a look at this given example. So imagine you need to set a question like this, where you have a question and the user is asked to type the exact answer. Now, how do you achieve that? If you notice, this is a subjective question. This is objective. So in this case, you've got options. Then you've got objective, subjective. So let's say we want to achieve this, where you want objective questions to be shown side by side with subjective question. When I say subjective, I refer to fill in the gap where they are meant to solve or provide some answer, but the answer is unique, right? Then how do you go about providing such content with the editor? So let me take you right into the editor. So here is how you go about it. It's quite simple. So let's say you have a question that says solve for x, and the question is something like, let's say 2x minus 7 equals, let's say 10 minus plus x, for instance. Now, you can delete all the options. Once you delete an option such that only one option is left, the system automatically sees that as subjective. So that's how simple it is to create a subjective uh, uh, question. So in this case, the answer here is 17. Now, by just providing option A and checking it, you've created a fill in the gap or subjective question, because since you've got just one option, the system will not ask the user to pick that up to select. Instead, the system will ask the user to rather fill in or provide the answer. So that's how easy it is to create a subjective or fill in the gap question. So this brings us to the end of this first video, and in our subsequent video we explore other things that you need to know about the EduEditor.